There's a piece of paper on my kitchen table with a date circled in red pen. According to that paper, a home health aide sat with me in my living room on a Tuesday afternoon in June, taking notes on how confused I seemed, how I repeated myself, how I lost my train of thought twice in 20 minutes. Except that Tuesday, I wasn't confused, and I wasn't even in the state. I was 200 miles away, sitting in my neighbor's kitchen, watching my own front door like it belonged to somebody else. Right now, I've got that paper in one hand and my phone in the other, my attorney on the line, about 10 minutes from making a call that's going to end my son's marriage. But to understand how one piece of paper does that much damage, you've got to go back about 4 months, to the week everything in my house started feeling wrong. Before starting the story, tell me, who are you and from where? My name's Walt Hensley. I'm 66 years old. For 38 years I ran the floor at a tool and die shop, the kind of work that leaves your hands more scarred than your face ever does. I built the back porch on this house the summer my son Danny turned 10. I built the raised garden beds where my wife Marlene grew tomatoes for 30 years, right up until the cancer took her 5 years ago. This house isn't just where I live, it's the last place on earth that still smells a little like her. So when Danny and his wife Renee offered to move in for a while just to help out Dad after my knee replacement, I felt like the luckiest man on the street. A lot of guys my age end up alone in a house too big for them. I had my son back under my roof. I didn't know yet what that was going to cost me. The first few months were good, genuinely good. Renee cooked most nights. Danny fixed the gutter that had been sagging since before Marlene passed. Renee even set me up with a home health aide, a cheerful woman named Tammy, to check on my knee twice a week. I liked her fine. She brought me crossword books from the pharmacy and asked about Marlene's tomatoes like she actually cared. Around that same time, I ran into Diane Whitfield at the hardware store, the attorney who'd drawn up my will after Marlene passed. We talked for a few minutes about nothing in particular. I had no idea how soon I'd need her for something a lot more serious than a will. Then, around month 4, something shifted. I couldn't tell you the exact day. It was more like a change in air pressure before a storm you can't see yet. Phone calls that stopped dead the second I walked into the kitchen. Renee snapping her laptop shut a little too fast. A collections letter with my name on it sitting on the counter one afternoon, gone by the time I asked about it. "Just a mix-up, Dad, I'll handle it," Danny said, already halfway out the door. Then there was the garage. That garage was mine. 40 years of tools in there, half of them older than Danny is now. I taught him to build his first birdhouse on that workbench when he was 7. After my surgery, Danny offered to clean it up a little, so I wouldn't have to bend down as much. I thought that was kind of him. 2 weeks later, I went out to grab a wrench and found a brand new padlock on the door. My key didn't fit it anymore. I brought it up at breakfast the next morning, keeping my voice light. "Somebody want to tell me why I need a key to my own garage now?" Renee didn't look up from her coffee. "What's problem, Walt? We're handling it. You don't need to worry about it." Danny suddenly had a lot to say about whether it might rain that weekend. 26 years I've known that boy, and I have never once heard him bring up the weather unprompted unless he was avoiding something. Wasps don't need a $100 padlock either. Trust in your own family doesn't break all at once. It isn't glass. It's more like a slow leak in a tire. You don't feel it happening, you just wake up one day and realize the truck's been sitting crooked for weeks. By the time I looked at my own house straight on, I'd been driving on it wrong for over a month. I started watching my own house the way you'd watch a machine making a sound it shouldn't make. Cars in the driveway after dark that I didn't recognize. Renee meeting people at the door with a folded envelope before they'd even said hello. I told Curtis Boone about it, my neighbor across the street since before Danny was born. "Walt, I've seen it too," he said over coffee. "Different cars, different people. Gone by sunup." Hearing him say it made it real. So I made a decision. I told Danny and Renee I was driving up to fish at my brother's for a week, packed my truck in front of them, called my brother loud enough for the whole house to hear the dates. Danny even offered to follow me, in case the trailer hitch gives trouble, which would have been thoughtful if I still towed anything. He just wanted to watch me actually leave, so I let him. I drove toward the highway, doubled back, and pulled straight into Curtis's garage, out of sight of the road, the same garage with the video doorbell his granddaughter had wired up the year before. From Curtis's upstairs window, I watched my own front door for 2 nights. the way you'd watch a stranger's house. Friday was the night everything changed. Starting around 7, strangers came in waves, 8 of them by 9 o'clock, each one let in by Renee with that same folded envelope. "This isn't new," Curtis said. "Ruth at the diner said her nephew stayed here in the spring. Cash only, gone by morning." That still wasn't what kept me up. Around 11 my phone rang. Fred Callahan from my credit union. "Walt, we've got a home equity application in for $60,000 against your property. Something told me to check with you first. I told him I hadn't applied for a thing." "Then somebody's using your name," Fred said. "I'm flagging it tonight." Curtis waited until I caught my breath, then told me the rest. 2 weeks back he'd seen Danny at the diner with a man in a grey suit, talking about an evaluation, about a judge. I wasn't afraid of losing money anymore. I was afraid of losing myself. I went home Monday night, a day earlier than I'd told them, and did exactly what Diane told me to do, act like nothing happened. I hugged my son at the door. I told stories about a fishing trip that never happened, details I'd rehearsed in Curtis's truck on the way over. I let Renee make me tea and ask about the weather up north like she actually wanted to know. That night, lying awake, I heard them talking low through the bedroom wall. I only caught pieces. "The appointment's still Friday. She hasn't said anything. Just a few more days." I told myself I'd misheard the coldness in it. I hadn't. The next morning, on Diane's advice, I did something simple and completely within my rights. I called Tammy's agency and asked for a full copy of my own home health file, the kind of thing any patient can request. I told them it was for insurance. Diane said to ask before anyone had a reason to wonder why 3 days later the file came in the mail. Diane and I went through every page of it together at her kitchen table. And there it was. A visit logged for a Tuesday in June. Careful, detailed notes about disorientation, about repeating myself, about difficulty tracking simple conversation, building a picture page by page of a man slipping. That Tuesday I wasn't home. I was 200 miles away in Curtis's guest room, watching my own front door with my own 2 eyes. Curtis's video doorbell, mounted right over that same garage, still had the footage saved, time-stamped, dated, showing my truck pull in that first evening and never move again until the day I drove it home. Tammy hadn't just been generous with her notes. She'd been paid to write a case file for a doctor and a judge who hadn't even asked for one yet, dated for days she was never inside my house at all. That was the paper that ended up on my kitchen table. Not just proof that somebody had forged my name on a loan. Proof that a woman I'd trusted twice a week for months had invented a version of me that didn't exist, so that when the real appointment finally came, there'd already be a 3-month trail of decline waiting for a judge to read. Revoked any power of attorney that might exist, got me an independent capacity evaluation that I passed clean, and sent Fred's fraud report straight to the credit union, which froze the HELOC inside 2 days. On a Friday night, with my house full of paying strangers as usual, a code enforcement officer showed up with an inspection order. 8 unrelated occupants, no license, no fire inspection. One guest told him flat out he'd paid $40 cash for the night. I walked into my own living room in the middle of it. "I know about the HELOC," I told Danny. "I know about Tammy's notes, and I know she wrote half of them for days I wasn't even in the state. I've known for 11 days. Renee said the thing people say once the math stops working for them. We were going to tell you eventually. We just needed to get ahead of the debt." Danny wouldn't look at me. "It wasn't going to go that far, Dad." "I heard you through the wall, son. That's not a man planning to stop it. I didn't press criminal charges. Some kinds of justice a father gets to decide on his own terms. Tammy lost her aid certification. Renee moved out. Danny works the loading dock now, paying the credit union back on a plan Fred, of all people, helped him set up. A letter showed up 3 months later, 4 sentences, no excuses. I haven't answered it. I haven't thrown it away either. I had the cots and the mini-fridge hauled out of my garage and put my workbench back where it always sat. Curtis comes by most Thursdays now, and the 2 of us work on a birdhouse kit, badly, on purpose, in no hurry to finish it. If the people who share your last name started building a file on you without asking, would you catch it in time, or only after they'd already convinced everyone else it was true? Didn't exist. so that when the real appointment finally came, there'd already be a 3-month trail of decline waiting for a judge to read. Wait, the people who share your last name started building a file on you without asking. Would you catch it in time, or only after they'd already convinced everyone else it was true?